Hello everybody, today we're going to be doing another tier list. If this is your first time stumbling upon this type of video for me, or if you're just stumbling upon my channel, first of all, hi, how are you? But second of all, my tier list is basically where I rank either an entire makeup category or a brand. This is a new series that I started on my channel. You guys seem to really enjoy it, and I plan on going through pretty much every single makeup category at some point. And today we are going to be tackling concealers. So I basically went on Sephora and I screenshotted every single concealer that I've ever tried, and I'm going to be ranking them today. I hope that you guys are going to enjoy it. Let me know in the comments what we should rank next. And of course, hit the thumbs up button if you do like these types of videos, and subscribe and hit the bell if you want to be notified every time I upload a new one. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's go through the actual tier list so you guys can get familiar with the categories. If you're familiar with my other tier videos, the tier list does look a little bit different. It's a little bit more compact. I did kind of tighten things up just so that there weren't so many categories. I feel like this makes a little bit more sense. Let me know what you guys think. But starting off at the top, we have Holy Grail status. These are the concealers that have really cemented themselves in my collection and in my heart. Underneath Holy Grail, we have In the Rotation, still a really good category for the products to be in. These are for the products that haven't quite hit Holy Grail status, but are on their way. They're consistently used in my collection, and I really enjoy them. Underneath that, we have Good Not Amazing. This is really right in the middle for a reason. This category just has the essence of this sound. Underneath that, we have Not For Everyone. This is a very important category I find in a tier list because obviously, especially with concealer products or really any type of base product, something that will work for me may not necessarily work for you, and vice versa. So I can recognize that and I can see, okay, this concealer or this foundation or whatever it is doesn't work for my skin type, but I can see it working for somebody else. That's what this category is for. And then lastly, we have the worst category, which is Avoid. Also self-explanatory. This is going to be for the concealers that are drying and cakey and that I really just don't think are very good no matter what. So like I said, there's so many concealers here to talk about, so let's just jump right into it, shall we? So I want to start off with a brand new concealer that I've been recently testing out. This is the Milk Makeup Sunshine Skin Tint Concealer. I'm a really big fan of the Sunshine Skin Tint foundation. It's one of my favorites because it's super natural. It's great for no makeup, and I really had very high expectations for this concealer. So this is a very light coverage concealer. It doesn't really cover up much underneath the eyes. Again, very similar to the skin tint, and it does actually have a really nice texture and a nice finish as well. But my problem with this concealer is not the coverage or the finish or the texture, but it's actually the way that it sits on the skin. I don't know why, and I've tested this out multiple times on multiple different days, but this is so drying underneath my eyes, and it accentuates so much texture underneath my eyes, and I can't wrap my head around why it does that because the texture is so lightweight, and unfortunately I don't know why, but it really doesn't work for me. I would really love to know if anybody else has tried this concealer and what your personal experience has been. So because of that, I'm actually going to put this in the Not For Everyone category, because I think if you have really textured under eyes, it's very likely that you may not enjoy it like I did. Next, we have the Rare Beauty Concealer. This is a product that really surprised me. I didn't actually expect that I would like it as much as I did. Spoiler alert, yes, I do really enjoy the Rare Beauty Concealer. Probably already know that if you're familiar with my channel, but why I like this is because it's very full coverage, so you can definitely get like a pretty flawless finish with this. It's matte, so it doesn't have any like glow or shine, but it's still a pretty thin texture, so it doesn't look heavy or cakey while it is full coverage and matte. Typically for me, at least, when things are more full coverage and matte, I can almost guarantee that it's going to make my skin look dry. This really doesn't do that, and because of that matte finish, it just lasts so nicely throughout the day. It's one of my favorite concealers to wear when I do want more of like a long wearing look, so this is definitely a product that isn't quite Holy Grail for me, but it's definitely in the rotation. Like, I consistently go back to this and pull it out of my collection. Okay, next up, let's talk about kind of like an oldie. Some of you may not be familiar with this, but I did want to mention it anyway because this is a product that I feel is kind of underrated. Oh my God, I forgot to add a category in the tier list. I wanted to add an underrated category. Okay, wait, let's just do that really quick. So as I was saying, the Makeup Forever Full Cover Concealer, I feel, is a pretty underrated product. This is an incredibly full coverage concealer. I actually discovered this when I was in makeup school, and I remember my makeup teacher suggested that we have this in our kit because it was very full coverage and could very easily cover up blemishes and even tattoos. Like, this stuff is intense. Like, you need like a pinpoint amount of this and it can cover up pretty much anything. I would really not recommend this for the under eyes. I think it is a little bit too thick and heavy, but for the face to cover up any type of like blemish or, like I said, tattoos, this is amazing. So this is definitely a product that I feel is quite underrated because it's a little bit of like an older product. Not a lot of people talk about it. Okay, next, this one's kind of random, I feel, because this is another product that you really don't hear that many people talk about, and I feel like it's kind of for a good reason. Sorry to get a little sassy, but this Hourglass concealer is terrible. I love so many Hourglass products. It always surprises me when I try something from Hourglass that I'm really just not a fan of, but this is just one of those. I find oftentimes stick concealers can be kind of like difficult formulas to work with. They're often like really, really thick and creamy, which will just give you a pretty heavy effect and will look very, very cakey. And that's what this concealer does. It's really hard to kind of mesh and melt into the skin, and it definitely looks cakey. So this is a product that I would definitely say to avoid. So next we have a concealer from Urban Decay. This is the Stay Naked Correcting Concealer. So this is where I feel a full coverage concealer can sometimes go really wrong. This is definitely a very full coverage product, but the problem with this is that it looks full coverage on the skin. I find that even though it's not necessarily a thick product, it looks thick on the skin and it just looks really heavy. And I never found, again, that I was really able to like mesh and melt it into the skin in order to make it look good. So this is another product that I would say to avoid because there's so many products out there on the market. I feel like we all just don't have time for those products that just don't work, you know? There's so many great full coverage concealers, like for example, the Rare Beauty one, which gets the job done without the heaviness and cakiness. And so we don't have time for the concealers that don't do that, you know? So next up, we have kind of an interesting product, very different than anything else we've spoken about thus far, the YSL Touche Eclat Radiant Touch Concealer. So this is definitely more of a skin brightener and not so much a concealer. You do get coverage with this, albeit very, very, very light coverage, but this is more suited for those of you who kind of just want to brighten up your face without wanting to add too much coverage to your face. So I find a product like this is really nice for no makeup days and for days when you just don't want or need a lot of coverage. So I actually do really like this product and I do use it personally on like my no makeup days for those exact purposes. And I've actually been using this for years too. So I'm actually gonna put this in the rotation. So Hourglass did end up redeeming themselves with their horrible concealer with this guy. This is the Hourglass Vanish Concealer. And this stuff really is amazing. This is actually one of like my favorite full coverage concealers because it makes your under eyes really look flawless. This is a really nice hydrating formula that I find just sits in a very flattering way underneath the eyes. Again, it's that perfect full coverage consistency where it doesn't look drying, heavy, or cakey, but it still really gets the job done. As soon as I tried this, I just fell in love with this product. So this is definitely a in the rotation concealer for me. Next up, we have kind of a random-ish concealer from Tarte. This is part of their C collection and it's called the Hydro Concealer. I actually tried this recently when Julia Adams bought it for me during our little collab that we did. I really didn't know what to expect with this product, but it's quite beautiful and it's actually what I'm wearing underneath my eyes today. So this concealer is more of like a light coverage, hydrating concealer. It does kind of have this nice dewy consistency to it, or dewy finish, I should say. It's definitely more of a light coverage concealer. I feel like this is really good for every day when you don't really want that much coverage, but you do want something a little bit more hydrating. I think I would put this in the underrated category because I really don't hear that many people talk about it and it's quite good. We are diving into holy grail waters right now. This is the Kosas Revealer Concealer. This is definitely one of my holy grail concealers. I fell in love with this the moment I put this on my skin. It really is, for me, as like a dry skinned person, one of the most perfect under eye concealers. This is basically like concealer and skincare had a baby. So this concealer does actually have some really good skincare benefits in here. It gives the skin this really gorgeous skincare-like glow. It's not unnaturally dewy, but it just makes your skin look healthy. So underneath the eyes, it's beautiful because it makes your under eyes kind of glow in a way. And it just always sits so nicely underneath the eyes because it is so hydrating and beautiful. And it's also about a medium coverage, so it covers gorgeously as well. It's really, for me, like the perfect concealer. Works great underneath the eyes, works great on the face as well. Chef's kisses all around. So this is going in holy grail for me. Laura Mercier Secret Camouflage Concealer. This is a product that just honestly confuses me because so many professional makeup artists rave about the Laura Mercier Secret Camouflage. They say that it's just one of their favorite concealers, especially for around the face. And even my personal makeup artist friends like have raved about this product. And I just can't get into it personally. I find that this formula is just a little bit too finicky for my liking. It is a very, very, very full coverage formula, but it's very almost tacky and sticky and kind of like putty-like. So it can be a little bit drying if you don't apply it in the correct way. And when I apply concealer, like I want something quick, I want something easy, I want something that just kind of gets it done. And this does require a little bit more finesse that I'm honestly just not willing to do on most days. And it just doesn't work for me. Like it's just way too drying. But again, I know that a lot of people like this because it is such like a full coverage concealer that really stays put, but it's just too drying for me and it's just too thick. This is a product that I wouldn't say to avoid because again, I know that so many people love this, but I really just don't think it's for everyone. Next, we have another product here from Milk. This is the Milk Flex Concealer. When I first tried this, I really didn't like it, but a couple years later when I tried it again, I actually really do like it, and this became one of my favorite everyday concealers. It's more of like a moussier consistency, so because of that, it is a bit more of like a lightweight texture. So I find that it sits really nicely on the skin. It has some good coverage to it as well. It just kind of works. It's a good concealer. I'm sorry, I'm not really more descriptive with it. I do find that this sometimes does have the potential to be on the drying side, which I think is what initially turned me off. When it works really well. So I think for me, I would put this in good, not amazing. Next, we have a concealer from Bare Minerals. This is the original concealer. If we're talking like a good baseline concealer, I feel like this would be it. It doesn't really lean too much in any direction. It's not too matte, it's not too glowy, it's not like crazy full coverage, but it's not light coverage. It just kind of lands right in the middle in all categories that you would use to describe a concealer. I find that this just works really nicely. It doesn't blow me out of the water. It's not like the best concealer I've ever tried. I would actually say that this is an underrated product. Next, we have a product from Benefit Cosmetics. This is the Boing Industrial Strength Concealer. This product actually reminds me quite a bit of the Laura Mercier Secret Camouflage. It's a very similar consistency. It's almost putty-like. It's very, very thick and stiff. If we're talking cakey concealers, this is a very cakey concealer. And in order for it to really blend into the skin, you need to warm it up so much. I do not like this on the face. I don't like it underneath the eyes. It's just a big no for me. I actually would say to completely avoid this. Next up, we have a concealer from Laura Mercier. This is the Flawless Fusion Concealer, and this is actually one of my favorite full coverage concealers. Again, this is just a really flattering full coverage concealer. It does have a really nice radiant finish to it as well, and I love this underneath the eyes. It's almost a bit on the thicker side in consistency, as thick as a liquid can be, because it is a liquid, and it almost creates this like nice veil underneath the eyes. So it kind of like sits on top of your fine lines, especially after setting it with powder. It just creates such a nice smooth looking finish. This one I would say would be probably in the rotation for me. Oh baby, you guys know how I feel about this one. This is the Nars Soft Matte Concealer. This is one of my favorite face concealers, and it's one of those products that I really just didn't expect that I would love as much as I do, because this is a completely matte formula. I love applying this with a small fluffy brush. I'll just dip my brush directly into the concealer, just pick up a little bit of the product and just use that to airbrush the product into my skin, and I almost find it acts like an eraser. It erases whatever redness I have going on my face, but it doesn't leave behind the look of product, which I just love. And because of the soft matte finish that it has, It just looks very natural on the skin, and it also lasts really well. So especially for like hotter, sweatier days, this is always my go-to. I almost like to use this kind of in place of a foundation on my no makeup days. I do feel like I kind of prefer this for face concealer rather than under eye concealer because it can sometimes be a little bit too matte or drying for underneath my eyes. I will say though, if you have incredibly dry skin that has a lot of texture, you may want to avoid this just because the formula is more on the matte side. So yeah, but this is definitely holy grail status for me. The Dior Forever Skin Correct Concealer. This one is amazing, you guys. Like one of my all-time favorite full coverage concealers. This is a concealer that really checks all the boxes for me. It's full coverage, it's hydrating, it's natural looking while still being full coverage. It lasts really well. I don't actually feel that I need to set this with powder for it to last the entire day. Like it doesn't slip and slide, kind of sets down on its own. And it's just a flattering product. I do find that this gives the skin a really flawless look too. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Definitely one of my all-time favorites. I use this all the time. And it's another one of those concealers that works great underneath the eyes and around the face too. So it's an A++ for me, holy grail status. Next, we have the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye. This is such an OG product. Like this was so popular at one point, and it is actually a really, really good product. You kind of just need to know how to use it. It's almost similar to the Makeup Forever Full Cover Concealer in the way that it applies because you need a pinpoint amount and you get complete like blank out full coverage with the stuff. Even though it is a bit of like a thicker consistency, this does still work if you have more mature skin because sometimes with thicker concealers, they can really settle into fine lines. My mom is actually a really big fan of this. I think she's spoken about it on my channel even before. And it's really one of those concealers that will give you that really like flawless effect. You just need to use a pinpoint amount. Like you do not want to over apply this just because it's just not necessary. And it is also very necessary to set this with powder because otherwise it's going to crease like crazy because it is such a thick product. So it's definitely really good when it comes to like a very full coverage concealer. It's not really in the rotation for me because I don't really use it that often anymore. It's not underrated. I would say it's good, not amazing. Yeah. Next, we have a product from Sephora collection. This is the Bright Future Gel Serum Concealer. This is a product that I really tried to like, and I really couldn't understand why it was getting so much hype. I just always found that it made my skin look really cakey, and it's just not what I expected with it because it is called a gel serum. And so you would think that it would be like a gel-like serum-like texture that would be hydrating. It would sit in a beautiful way on the skin, but it just didn't for me. It really was very unflattering. I didn't personally like this, although I know that a lot of people do. So I would say that it's not for everyone. So next we have the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Away Concealer. This is another very interesting type of product. I feel like a lot of these concealers can be kind of interchangeable with each other, but then there's some others in here that really stand out on its own, and this is one of them. It's such a thin texture, you would almost think that it wouldn't really give you a lot of coverage, but when you apply it, it gives you almost like a completely full coverage. I do really like this concealer for more of like my everyday makeup because it is so lightweight. It really just doesn't look like much underneath the eyes, but yet it still gives you that impact that you're looking for. And it's that consistency that is just so unique. So I'm going to put this in the rotation. Another huge favorite of mine, the Josie Maran Vibrancy Concealer. I've been using this one for years. This is probably one of the most hydrating concealers that I have when I'm having a dry under eye day or even just a dry face day. This is the concealer that I will go for because it just is always flattering no matter what stage my skin is at. And it's hydrating without it being slippery. So it doesn't slip and slide, and I don't necessarily have to set it with a powder, and it doesn't really go anywhere. Also really great coverage too. So this is definitely a product that is holy grail status for me. Okay, so there's two concealers that I actually want to talk about in the same breath. That is the RMS Uncover Up Concealer and then the Glossier Stretch Concealer. So both these concealers are very much a no makeup concealer. They're very light coverage. Like I'm talking, they just add the slightest tint to your face. So the consistency of both of these products are very dewy and emollient and kind of wet feeling. So I actually find that these settle on the face quite a bit, especially if you don't set it with powder. They really do tend to move around a little bit, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. I wouldn't necessarily recommend these if you have super oily skin because I feel like they would almost slip around too much, but if you have a very dry skin, you may actually love these because they are so emollient and almost wet feeling on the face. You could probably tell I'm not like overly excited about these. I know that the Glossier Stretch is a lot of people's absolute favorites, and I do like the Glossier Stretch. I feel like it works nicely, but I'm just not die hard for really either of these. So I actually think that I would put both of these in the not for everyone category. But if you're a no makeup person through and through with like a drier skin type, you would probably really enjoy them. Shall we talk about Tarte Shape Tape? When the Instagram style full coverage makeup was at its peak, so was the Tarte Shape Tape. I mean, you couldn't go through watching a makeup video without hearing about this at least 4.5 times. And it was because it was a super full coverage concealer. Now, when I first started using Shape Tape, I did really like it. I honestly think I went through tubes of this stuff. So I definitely had a moment where this was a huge favorite of mine. I think as time has gone on and more full coverage concealers have been released and I've tried different types of formulas, I don't really go towards a Tarte Shape Tape really ever, just because I feel that compared to a lot of the other full coverage concealers that I personally gravitate towards, this can be a little bit more drying. And so because I found so many other concealers that really have the same coverage as the oh my god, as the Tarte Shape Tape, so hard to say, wow, I just don't reach for it anymore. It's kind of just like better versions of this product. So yeah, I would say this is good, not amazing. Like, I feel like the Dior concealer is a better version of the Tarte Shape Tape. Next up, we have a new concealer from Lancome. This is the Teint Idole Ultra Wear All Over Concealer. So I've been using this over the last couple of weeks and I really like this stuff. I love the doe foot applicator on this. I find that it really picks up the perfect amount of concealer every time I take it out of the packaging. You know, sometimes with these doe foot applicators, you end up with so much concealer on the actual applicator that you have to like scrape it off. This really gives you the perfect amount of concealer every time, and I just feel like that's important to note. And this is one of those full coverage concealers that has that like kind of thinner consistency, but you're gonna see in my swatch, guys, like it just covers up everything. I really like this underneath the eyes and around the face too, and just overall it's a really good product. So I'm going to put that in the rotation. Almost don't know how to describe these concealers anymore because, like I said, so many of them are so similar to one another, and I'm trying to figure out how to describe them in the best way for you guys so you could actually understand what they're all about. So I'm sorry if it sounds repetitive, but like I said, a lot of them are just kind of the same but different. So next we have, of course, the famous concealer from Nars. This is the Radiant Creamy Concealer. This is another very popular product. When you go on Sephora and you search like best sellers, the Radiant Creamy Concealer always comes up as like one of the very first. I mean, this is a really popular product for a reason. Again, I kind of feel like it lands in the middle of all the concealer categories. It's a medium coverage. It's not too matte. It's not too glowy. It's not too creamy. It's not too liquidy. It kind of just works. If I had to choose between the Nars Soft Matte and this one, I would go towards the Soft Matte just because to me, it's a little bit more of like a unique formula. I do feel that I have other concealers that perform exactly like this in my collection. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. So I'm gonna put this guy in good, not amazing. So the Fenty concealer is one of the very few products from Fenty that I actually do not like. I do feel that this product is definitely more catered to an oilier skin type. If you have dry skin, I don't think that this would be very ideal. At least it really didn't work for me. I found that this was a very drying concealer, and it just looked so cakey on my skin, especially underneath the eyes. This really just did not work for me. It works a little bit better on the face, but it's still just not ideal. So I'm actually gonna put this in avoid because I do find that it is quite drying. This is another holy grail product for me, the Ilia Serum Concealer. This probably goes down as one of my top 3 favorite everyday concealers. It's called the Serum Concealer, so it does have a really nice hydrating feel and finish to it, but again, it's not like too hydrating where it slips around at all. Kind of similar to the Kosas concealer, it kind of just gives the skin this really nice healthy finish. And it's just such a flattering product. The coverage of this is also so nice. It's like a light to medium coverage, so I can wear this on my no makeup days, and it really doesn't blank out my face. It just adds that perfect amount of coverage to cover up what I want to cover, but it still allows some of my natural skin to show through, so it still looks very, very natural, but I can still wear this on my full coverage days, no problem, and it blends beautifully with a full coverage foundation. So this is definitely one of my ultimate favorites. It's a holy grail for me. So I wanted to mention just a couple drugstore concealers that came top of mind when I was putting together this video. The first one is probably one of my favorite drugstore concealers that I've tried, which is the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. I actually have compared this guy to the Dior concealer that I raved about earlier. It's another very, very, very full coverage concealer, but it has that hydrating finish, so it just stays really nice and flattering on the skin. This is such an affordable product, but I really do find that it honestly performs just as well as a lot of my way more expensive concealers, and I just find that it's really great, especially if you are looking for something that's more full coverage and that's something that's not drying. So this guy actually goes in a holy grail status for me. Next, we have one of my favorite everyday concealers from the drugstore. This is the Covergirl Clean Fresh Hydrating Concealer. I would say that this is almost like a better version of the Milk Makeup Sunshine Skin Tint, because it kind of does what I thought that concealer would do, but in a much better way, and it actually stays flattering on the skin. It doesn't get all weird and drying and not nice. Like I said, very, very light coverage, but it just looks really nice and fresh, and it's just really great for day to day. So this is definitely one of my favorites. I would put this in the rotation for sure. One of the most popular drugstore concealers is definitely the Maybelline Fit Me. I feel like this kind of sits between the e.l.f. and the CoverGirl. It's definitely more coverage than the CoverGirl one, but it has that really nice kind of more natural finish to it. And it's less coverage than the e.l.f. one, but it still covers up really nicely. I find it's a really good, very flattering concealer. I do really like this. It's not really one of my top favorites, but it's good. So I definitely would put this in good, not amazing. All right, guys, so we are done. So let's very quickly go through the list that I have here. So let's start at the bottom so that we end on a high note. So at the bottom in the avoid category, we have the Hourglass Concealer, the Urban Decay Stay Naked, Benefit Boing, and the Fenty Concealer as well. In Not For Everyone, we have the Milk Sunshine Skin Tint, Laura Mercier Secret Camouflage, the Sephora Bright Future, RMS Beauty Uncover Up, and the Glossier Stretch. In Good Not Amazing, we have Milk Flex, It Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye, Tarte Shape Tape, Nars Radiant Creamy, and the Maybelline Fit Me. In Underrated, we have Makeup Forever Full Cover, the Tarte Hydrocealer, and the Bare Minerals Original Concealer. In the rotation, we have Rare Beauty, YSL Touche Eclat, Hourglass Vanish, the Laura Mercier Flawless Fusion, Charlotte Tilbury Magic Away, the Lancome Tint Idole, and the Covergirl Clean Fresh. And in holy grail status, we have Kosas Revealer Concealer, Nars Soft Matte, the Dior Forever Skin, Josie Maran Vibrancy, the Ilia True Skin Serum Concealer, and then the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. So those are my rankings for all of the concealers. I'm hoping I didn't forget anything. It's very possible that I might have. There were a lot of concealers here and a lot going on, but I hope that you guys enjoyed seeing all my rankings for all the concealers that I showed you guys today. Don't forget to let me know in the comments what brand or product category you like to see me rank next. Hit the thumbs up button if you did enjoy today's video, and subscribe and hit the bell if you haven't done that already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!